Draft, few days away. Uniforms tomorrow. They're dropping. Nick Caserio, he's got a different dynamic with D'Amico Ryans this year as opposed to last year. They've been through it together. They've had success. They've surpassed expectations. Now expectations have jumped. Does that change the communication? Here's Nick Caserio talking about that.
We're not trying to get to a point where we just agree on everything, but we're trying to get to a point where we see players similarly, we envision the role similarly. We're never going to force a player on a coach because it's unfair to really anybody involved. So we're not going to make decisions in a vacuum. We're going to take all the information in. We're going to aggregate as much information as possible, and ultimately D'Amico and I will sit down and go through it and then figure out like what decision makes the most sense. So maybe it's okay if we have a group of 4 players, we're comfortable with one of the 4 players. Okay, so then ultimately we're going to have to make a decision there. But there's a lot of dialogue and a lot of discussion back and forth. It's ongoing. We've actually had a couple follow-up meetings once we kind of got through the first wave. Hey, take a look at this group, 6 or 8 players. Hey, can you do a informal Zoom call with them? We're just trying to get more information. Then we'll come back. Hey, how'd it go? Well, we had a question about this. What did you think? So we're aggregating a lot of information, and there's a lot of dialogue. I mean, D'Amico's probably sick of me walking in his office every day, but literally we talk about players, we talk about the team on a day-to-day basis. So it's all about communication. So you can't over-communicate in situations like this. You're making big decisions on behalf of the organization. So I'm just trying to kind of steer it in the right direction and be a steward and, you know, be supportive of everybody and be receptive to, you know, everybody's opinion. At some point we got to draw the line somewhere, but hopefully we're identifying the right people for the organization. We see the vision, we see the role, but their information and input is certainly valued without question.
All right, there you go. It's Nick Caserio talking about the process, which regardless of what they say, the mindset, the goal, the composure can remain the same. It's definitely a different process this time than last. I mean, you had 2 of the top 12 picks in the draft, 3 of the top 33. You made the trade up. You're trying to find a franchise quarterback. It's obviously different. But there are some things that we expect the Texans to do, or many expect the Texans to do. But you say, J-Lo, that the Texans may not do the one thing that you'd bet on them doing on Friday.
Yeah, one thing we know about Nick Caserio, he does, he's done it a year, is he's going to trade and make a lot of moves. He more so than just about any other general manager in the league with his draft picks. And Adam Schefter referenced that in a post that he had this morning. It might have been last night. I saw it this morning about certain things that are going to happen in the draft. And I'm like, I'm not so sure about that. Like, I think they are so – you mentioned, like, how different it is now. You know, they traded up and they had all these premium picks, very, very high premium picks. They still have some. Last year, well, there was not a lot of margin for error. They were going to have to go get the quarterback and go get a very top-line player. Now they've had more time to kind of – look at at the breadth of the picks that are available, the number Nicky buckets, the buckets that he likes to talk about. So now I think all the legwork, all the draft trades that we have come to expect, unless something just slaps him in the face, they're pretty much done. Like he's made the moves to get 2 second-round picks. That's normally something that he would do on draft day, right? And has done. I think they're kind of
so
like
you're looking
set.
at the Diggs trade as, okay, like if they did this on draft day, the internet would break, but essentially they did it a few weeks before.
It's done.
So all this will he, won't he trade, he's already made a pretty damn big trade. So you're saying that if we're looking for some sort of splash, the splash has already been made just because it didn't happen on draft day. It'd be like if the Titans traded A.J. Brown 3 weeks before instead of the day of.
Correct.
I mean, I think that's a good way to look at it. I actually think that's a really, really good point. The other thing about it is this. I think because of where they're drafting, and I'm just piling on to what you're saying, I don't think they know what they're going to. I think the first round is going to decide, and then I think as soon as they meet after the first round, that's where it's really going to intensify, and the discussions are going to intensify, because right now they're at the mercy of 41 picks, and they're at the mercy of 32 picks in the first round before they either have a night to fall asleep and fall in love with somebody or whatever. So like all this talk, and it's kind of weird, because if they had the 22nd pick, I would be sitting here and we'd be starting the show saying, all right, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, that's going to happen. But I don't even think they have any clue. They have a decent idea, but I don't think they have any clue of what they want to do, what the possibilities are, and they're, for lack of a better term, at the mercy of day one.
Yes, and I think like you said, if they still had the 23rd pick, I would fully expect all those Nick Caserio deals to happen. I think they've kind of happened. Now, he might tweak it a little bit, like he sees a player at 38 and maybe move up a couple spots, whatever. But the big moves, I think they've done. And here's the other thing. You heard him in that audio we just played talking about, we got to make it we have these meetings and we have these Zoom meetings and we have to make sure everybody's on the same page. Here's something that you need to know if you're a Texans fan. Two people are going to know who they're going to pick, D'Amico and Nick. And if Cal and Hannah are in the room, they'll find out soon enough. But even people in that building aren't exactly sure who they like yet. They're not sure who they like yet. They know who they might have a strong feeling about a certain group of players or something, but not until Friday are people going to start to realize that the Texans are going after these types of players.
And I think you look at last year where the Texans originally had the 33rd overall pick, and the Texans traded that 33rd pick in the Will Anderson trade.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, up in Tennessee, and the old Oilers are a popular topic, and it's probably going to remain into the uniform veil. They didn't like Will Levis. They passed on him at 12. The Titans needed a quarterback. They passed on Will Levis at 12, right?
Yeah.
So they were obviously not even thinking about Will Levis. They said if they would have loved Will Levis, they would have taken him right there as franchise quarterback.
Mm-hmm. That's happened.
He falls out of the first round, and next thing you know, the Titans are trading up to 33 to get Will Levis.
Mm-hmm.
That happens all the time when it comes to guys sliding to the second round. So there could be a player right now that the Texans are looking at, and they're saying, well, I don't know that there's really a chance we're going to get this guy,
Yeah.
and he falls there. So it's just really like the sleep between night 1 to 2 and then night 2 to 3. A lot of times you become a lot more aggressive based on what happens. And I do like your point in that we talk about this draft day trade that the stuff just because it didn't happen the day of doesn't mean it's not the same as a draft day splash and a draft day trade.
They've already done it. And you can even go down further, with some of the picks that they've accumulated later. But I can tell you this, we're going to go to bed Thursday night still not having a guy drafted by the Houston Texans. That has already been done. I don't think they're going to be moving back up into the first round. They're going to be seeing who's falling into the second.
It's going to be interesting.